Good evening and welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, broadcasting live via SHR Media and streaming live on Facebook from beautiful Cape May County, New Jersey. I don't know if my show is causing it to rain in Cape May County, but I'm starting to get a complex because every Friday night it seems to be raining and it is about to rain again. But anyway, but it is still beautiful Cape May County despite the rain. And welcome to the show, everyone. My guests this evening are the one and only Michael Fitzpatrick from NCX Group. So very excited to have him on the show. And then I also have speaker and author Jacklyn Shapiro on the show today. Mike is going to talk to us about security awareness solutions. I'm really excited about that topic. He's got some interesting stuff to share about some new things that are happening at NCX Group that are going to be very beneficial to you small businesses out there. You might be able to get some help from one of the big dogs in the business. So I'm excited about that. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then Jacklyn's going to talk to us about extraordinary solutions for the credit status you deserve. So I'm excited about having both of those guests on the show today. I'm still getting my footing with this new app that I'm using. So I'm going to go check. Now I'm checking Facebook. For those of you who are listening via iTunes and listening via SHR Media and wondering what I'm talking about, I'm using a new app streaming live on Facebook. And I just trying to upgrade. I'm using a new mic. Hopefully the sound sounds okay. You guys can hear me all right. Got a new microphone. I'm upgrading the show a little bit as I go along. So hopefully my audience can benefit. But also, I have a co-pilot today. My little dog, those of you who follow me on social media know that I have a new addition to the family. So if you hear a little barky bark during the show, that is my new doggy, Denzel, who I think I'm going to take to calling him Denny. He responds better to Denny, and I haven't even had him a week yet, so he's just starting to kind of get used to the environment. And this is the first show that I've had with Denny around, so I'm not sure how he's going to respond to me not giving him his full and complete attention for a whole 2 hours straight. I suspect that is not going to go well. So we'll see. We shall see what happens with that. Oh, I'm glad the sound is good. Right now, he is just sitting next to me, just kind of looking around, threatening to bark. So I expect that he will be barking. I do have another little host. I have to give a shout out and a thank you to my other host of the show, Trumpy Bear. If you can see that one of my fans was so kind. I was at a campaign event, I think it was last week, and I took a picture with one of my friends, Trumpy Bear. And I just made a joke about him being my boyfriend. And one of my devoted fans to the show sent me one that arrived today. I am so very excited that I have Trumpy Bear as my co-pilot and my co-host today. He's going to be sitting on the floor. I have a feeling, and actually, I'm getting the little paw. He's the proverbial lapdog. So if you are watching this stream via Facebook, you're now looking at Denzel and getting to meet Denzel and seeing the cuteness. That is Denzel, who will be called Denny, who's going to sit on my lap probably the entire time. Now, my guest, who's also a good friend of mine, warned me that Denny would probably be yappy, and I told him not my dog, not my Denny. No, he's going to be sweet as pie, and he's going to be very well behaved during the broadcast. And about 2 seconds after he and I got on the phone, Denny proved me wrong. So I just found that super amusing. Super amusing. But let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the news, shall we? Hiring across the board fell in May, which was kind of, I don't find it all that strange. This is according to LinkedIn's June issue of the Workforce Report. It was down almost 10% last month from a year ago. But again, I don't find it all that strange considering that hiring's been super gangbusters for the last, couple of months. So I don't find it to be too alarming, and GDP is still doing well and the fundamentals are still pretty solid. And the Fed has indicated that they have no plans on raising rates. So I think all in all, we are in good shape, even though it was lower than projected. You know what? In my next life, assuming that there would be a next life, which I don't believe there is, but if there were, I would come back as a weather person and one of those people that does financial predictions, because those two vocations seem to never be right, but you can still keep a job. I'm just saying. They're rarely ever right. Uber has a new service. Now, those of you who are fans of Uber, I use Uber particularly when I go to the city. I use Uber sometimes when I'm home, but I live in a very rural area. And so sometimes there's you'll hit Uber up and there's literally no cars. Like, I live in that kind of rural area. A friend of mine teases me that I live where there's cows, and no, there's just a lot of trees. There's no cows, and the beach. I live near the beach, but Uber has a new service where you can get called Uber Copter. So now, if you want to ride from Lower Manhattan to JFK, Lower Manhattan, New York, from JFK for $200 or $225, you can just hit up Uber and get a helicopter ride. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? When you think about it, though, I mean, say you're running late, right, for a trip, and it's a $5,000 vacation, and you might miss your plane or something like that, and you're coming from Manhattan to go to JFK Airport. $200 to make that flight doesn't really seem like that big of a heavy lift. I'm just, that seems pretty economical if you ask me. I don't know. That doesn't seem to be too bad, but that's a new service from Uber. And then finally, according to the United States Travel Association, Americans are traveling more than usual, up 58% from last year. People were planning to get away this summer. I'm actually planning to get away a little bit, and I haven't been away in a long time. I'm not going like away, but I'm part of that 58% that's going up. So I think I can absolutely co-sign that. President Trump was over in where the heck was he? Normandy. Did a fantastic job on his speech yesterday. About today, I believe it was yesterday, was the anniversary of D-Day, and President Trump just did just a magnificent job with his speech. I saw even CNN gave him a shout out for doing a good job, which I double checked to see if Helfer is over, because I couldn't believe that actually happened, but it did, because he did a fabulous job. So we are up against a break. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. My guests today are Mike Fitzpatrick from NCX Group, cybersecurity expert extraordinaire. He's going to talk to us about security awareness solutions. And then we have Jacklyn Shapiro in the 6:00 hour. She's the co-founder and managing partner at Shapiro, Hurst and Associates, going to talk to us about extraordinary solutions for credit status you deserve. But right up next, we have a brand new Ron Edwards notebook. We'll be back in one moment.
If a leftist tells you he or she believes in the right of everyone to have and express their own unique opinion, do not believe him or her. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, for years, pro-life, pro-constitution, pro-American, pro-Judeo-Christian, pro-free market, and pro-freedom of expression-leaning Americans have been banned from college campi, beaten, pelted with food, spat upon, and called everything but a child of God. If you are caught wearing a MAGA hat, be ready to protect yourself, because a pack of angry, howling leftists may seek to beat you. So, I wasn't surprised to learn that after Alabama passed a pro-life bill to protect babies from the violence of abortion, leftists went to Nutsville, howling at the moon and gnashing their teeth, simply because Alabama voted to protect women and babies from the violence of abortion. Leftists went so far as to threaten to rape the wife of pro-life state legislator Garland Gilcher. according to lifenews.com. Research shows that 60% of the babies in Alabama who would be saved from abortions are black. Now that explains why the Margaret Sanger-inspired leftists are willing to threaten to rape someone over the issue of abortion. I'm Ron Edwards. Join me Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on AmericaMatters.us.
Welcome to this week's Money Talk Minute. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. In this week's Money Talk Minute, we talk retirement readiness. Think you're ready to retire? Well, there's a few things that you must do before you walk out that door. The first thing you want to do is make sure you take inventory of your assets. And in doing so, you also want to make sure that you know what liabilities you have in the process. Next, you want to pay off any debt that you might have. Eliminating all debt is going to make things far more comfortable once you retire. The next thing you need to do is find out where you stand financially. By counting up all your assets and then your liabilities, you'll have a much better picture of where you stand financially. Next, you need to know how much money you need to retire. And then finally, you'll need to know exactly how it is that you withdraw money from any retirement account. Better picture of where you stand for Social Security. That's this week's Money Talk Minute. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. Remember, Money Talk with Melanie airs live on Facebook at 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, and also on shrmedia.com.
Making a living can be tough these days with so many jobs going overseas. If you love numbers and puzzles and want job security, you can become a tax specialist with an amazing 6-month tax course from Tax Mama. Operate your own tax practice locally or anywhere in the world where there are American taxpayers. It's a great way to write off your trips to visit family for months at a time. Everything you need to pass the IRS 3 special enrollment examinations is included in this course. Visit irsexams.school. And if you need more than 6 months, that's okay. Take your time. You're in the course until you pass the exams or until you unsubscribe and reject Tax Mama's emails.
Right now, you can get the credit you deserve. Just visit MrCreditRepair.biz. Let their expert credit repair specialist remove late payments, charge-offs, collections, even old bankruptcies fast and easy. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Why go anyplace else? Increase your credit score today. At Mr. Credit, you always get a quality service, all at our everyday discounted price. Stop getting turned down for cars, credit cards, or even new homes. Visit MrCreditRepair.biz today. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Your credit repair is our #1 priority.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and I am very excited as always. Hi, John. How are you? In the Facey Chat. Welcome, everybody, in the Facey Chat. Happy Friday to you. I'm very excited to have as my guest the first hour, the one and only Mike Fitzpatrick of NCX Group, and he's a cybersecurity expert extraordinaire, and he has a new service to introduce to us. I'm very excited about. I'm so happy about this. I'm just thrilled. So without further ado, the one and only Michael Fitzpatrick, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm always better when I'm talking to you.
You're such a sweetheart.
This is a good Friday afternoon.
It is a great Friday afternoon, and you were talking to me. Before we go into all of that, for people who don't know you, now Mike is a recurring guest on the show. He's been on the show several times, but for those who might just be listening to the show for the first time or have not been able to catch you, can you give the audience a bit about your background and what it is that you do?
Absolutely. My firm and myself, I've been in technology now for about 35 years, the last 18 years as CEO and founder of my own cybersecurity firm. We really started when nobody else was doing this, and so it's been interesting to watch the industry grow and mature. So we specialize in information security, business continuity, incident response, and then managed security services that we provide to business clients both nationally and internationally.
Excellent. And so one of the things that we talk about when you come on the show, we talk about all kinds of security breaches, all kinds of things that businesses can do to make themselves more secure, what we can do as individuals to be more secure. But you are introducing something new to your clientele, I guess is the way to put it. Is that the appropriate way to frame it or no?
Yeah, that's the appropriate way to frame it. One of the things, Melanie, that and we've talked about this. One of the things that I appreciate, respect, is how difficult it is to tackle cybersecurity for small businesses. And with the cost of expertise, the cost of tools, the cost of a breach, it's getting more and more difficult for small businesses to afford cybersecurity solutions. So for the last couple of years, driven by meetings that we've had with some of the global insurance providers, their syndicates, their reinsurers, we've been working on a couple of things to try to meet their requirements, which also kind of focus at small business. But we wanted to really try to do something that had value to it, that gave insight, that delivered some tools that these small businesses could use to do something. Because the reality is they are the primary target for the hackers. It's not the big boys. It's the small businesses. Why the small business is such a target is because the bad guys know that you don't have the expertise. They know that you don't have the defenses. They know that you're probably set up incorrectly. And it's just like a house on a street from the standpoint that if a house has an alarm sign out front of it and a beware of dog sign, the burglar is going to move on. They'll go to a house that doesn't have such deterrence in front. So it's always the easy target, no matter the crime, that is the primary target of the bad guy. And it's the same thing in the cyber world. So to that point, we have rolled out this week, we have launched our MyCSO cybersecurity awareness training offering. And I've just dropped it into the Facey chat there. So if you want to go take a look at it, you can actually try it for free. It provides cybersecurity awareness training. It provides phishing simulation. You can actually go through and answer a series of about 60 questions and get a score of where you compare to the, let's say, the NIST requirements for federal contractors for a lot of compliance requirements. NIST is the standard that everybody is moving to. It'll actually give you a score in how you compare to NIST. It's cost effective. If you go with the Pro solution, it starts at about $800 a month for up to 100 employees. So, I mean, it's really cost effective. It provides the training that you need and the education that you need. I think you were going to play one of the videos to give them a sense of what that would sound like.
I am. I was just about to say that. And I wanted to frame it a little bit because part of the reason why this training is so necessary is because cybersecurity breaches can happen very simply. And I think the video, you guys will only get the sound, but if you listen closely, you'll be able to hear quite clearly what happens. And I think this is stuff that happens all the time in everyday scenarios and how easily a security breach can take place. And I guarantee you many people have never even thought of this. So listen, it's about a 3-minute video, but if you listen carefully, you've probably done this before and not even known that you've created some kind of breach or something similar. So listen closely to this video. Apologize for the dead air. It's coming up right now. It's a story about how hackers use data to break into.
Have you seen it? I gotta go. Seen what? What's going on?
即使是最微弱的风，它也能转动，因为涡轮机的外面有发电机，显著可降低电力的损耗。
Wait a second. Generator outside the turbine? That's our technology. Steve, somebody stole our IP and beat us to market with it. We've been ripped off in a huge way. Any idea how this might have happened?
No, but I'm going to find out. And when I do, heads are going to roll. What I didn't know in that moment was that the source of the security breach was actually me, CSO for American Energy Corp. I made a single mistake that allowed our entire network to be hacked and our most valuable IP to be stolen. And it all started with a simple password slip about a year ago.
Now will you activate my account, Daddy?
Sure, sweetie. Let's take a look.
Steve, I'm busy. See what he needs? You promised. After coffee, remember? Steve! Dad!
I know this looks harmless, but what you're watching is a slip that ended up costing my company millions. All because I made the mistake of using the same username and password I use at work to activate my daughter's toy account. 6 weeks later, the company that manufactures the tablet experienced a security breach of their own, and my username and password were stolen by hackers.
VTech tablet breach executed. And get this, the CSO of American Energy Corp is in there.
Beautiful. I'll run his username and password against every bank I can while you run the login on his company website.
I can't believe it. I'm in.
Good. See what you can find.
Okay, this is insane. We literally have access to every engineering document they've ever produced. He must have used the same login on the VTech tablet that he uses for work.
Rookie mistake.
You're telling me? CSO? Ha! Yeah, right.
Think of how embarrassing it's going to be to have to tell everyone, including the lead engineer on the turbine project, that I was the source of the hack. And even worse, that I slipped up in a way that I've preached about for years. Hey, Paul, you have a second? Letting a mistake like this happen to you could lead to a corporate nightmare. The way to be sure that doesn't happen is to never use the same username and password on multiple websites or for more than one account.
Now, that was a very simple, innocent, thing that he did. But Mike, you use that example. Why on this particular website?
Well, you use that example because we've all done it. The thing that's interesting is the videos, and one of the things, and we didn't produce the videos, the content comes from another provider that we're utilizing. But the content is actually written by the same people that write for CSI Miami, CSI Las Vegas, the CSI series. So they've taken real world events, created these learning videos. Now they're cartoon form, they're animated form, which I like because the others that I've seen using actors and actresses are so bad and so boring that, and the scripts are terrible, that even somebody like myself who has to evaluate these things is bored to tears. And if I'm bored to tears, everybody else is going to be bored to tears. I've listened to that video and I've watched that video maybe about 6 times, and I'm still intrigued by it. So from that perspective, I think it's a great learning tool. And I think we have a total of about 60 different videos on everything from PCI security awareness to GDPR. California is coming out with their CCPA, their version of GDPR. In about a year or so, we'll have a video series around that. There's video series around phishing, for key logging, for standard security awareness. Going back to why this is important, my dad had a saying, the more you know, the better you do. And so awareness, education, like in everything in life, when it comes to cybersecurity, is going to make you better at defending your business and utilizing your employees to help you do that, making them aware. So you teach, we track, we train, we report the activities that go on with this. And like I said, it is a very cost-effective solution when you're looking at, roughly $8 per employee for something like this. It's really cost effective. There's no reason not to do something and not to do this. So I invite everybody to sign up, try it for free. If you want to go to the paid service, awesome. If you want to stay on the free service, you can do that too. Because there's actually some meat to the free stuff as well. So I'm excited about it. I think it's something that every small business can afford to do, and we've got 3 different options for it. So it I think is a great place at the right time, and it is really the only way that businesses can start to protect themselves and to start to do the real thing, to do the right thing, and understand where their risk may be and where the attack may come from.
And that's the thing about the risk, is that most of the time the risk is human. We always think that the risk is going to be something super techy and super complex computer wise, but that is not usually where the risk is. That's the fact of the matter. And so, and I think more and more, and this might be my imagination, at least people in you and people of a certain age, you and my age group, are less and less techie, and there's a large part of us that are part of the workforce that are just completely unaware of the risks.
Well, and I agree with you. The what they were talking about in that video was the technology from this windmill manufacturer here in the United States that really was stolen. The company is based in St. Louis, and it wasn't through the use of a password. It was the Chinese government and a Chinese corporation, quote unquote, that tried every way imaginable to get the IP for this technology, but the IP for this technology was what we called air gapped. It was on a standalone PC inside the building with no internet access to that PC with all of their plans. So what they did is they paid off an employee that had access. They gave them $2 to $3 million. I don't remember the exact figure.
Whoa!
The person went in with a thumb drive and pulled the files off and then provided that to the Chinese company. And then all of a sudden, the Chinese company is manufacturing the same equipment that this American company invented, to the point where they changed nothing. The Chinese parts would actually fit into the American company's equipment, or vice versa. So corporate espionage, thank you, social engineering, these kinds of things are a real easy to do type of attack. I mean, in the past, we've talked our way into the control room for water treatment facilities. We've gotten into where the machines are, where the knobs are that change the chemical makeup of everybody, of the area's water. Now, we talked our way from the front gate, through the front desk, to the IT department, through the IT department, and into the SCADA control room. Now, SCADA controls control everything from roller coasters, elevators, to nuclear power plants.
Now, that's absolutely frightening. Right.
Something goes wrong with SCADA systems, people die. It's not a breach, people die.
That's frightening.
So the easiest point of attack is at the physical level. It's the easiest way to exploit people, because the weakness here is everybody loves to be helpful. And as a bad guy, when I'm pretending to be a bad guy, I count on that.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And before you were able to offer this service to small businesses, only the larger companies could avail themselves of the service of a company like yours?
Well, and we work with companies, and I have them across the spectrum. We have one client that is 15 employees, but they're publicly traded.
Right.
So they have massive compliance requirements to deal with. And it's unusually expensive for a small company of 15 employees in light of Sarbanes-Oxley when they're paying the same amount of money to become compliant with Sarbanes-Oxley as GM, because it's a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. So we have one client that's 15 employees, publicly traded. And then on the other end of the scale, we have a client that is a global Fortune 50, actually a couple of global Fortune 50 companies. And one is in steel and aluminum. The other is in ports and logistics. So we've got a number of different companies: education, retail, healthcare, banking, finance, mortgage companies, across the board is typically who we work with.
Excellent.
But
go ahead. I'm sorry.
What I like about this is a cost-effective solution for small business. And the reality for small business in tackling cybersecurity is, one, CEOs and business owners, you are not paying enough attention to this. It is your number one risk that you face. It is the one thing that will put you out of business in a heartbeat. The data is absolutely clear on this. You will not survive. 66% do not survive a breach.
Exactly.
66% are out of business in 6 months. Done. Close up. Your dream's over with. Now you're stuck with all the fines, fees, and all the responsibility that goes with it that you won't be able to recover from.
And I'm going to tell you, as technologically savvy as I consider myself, I mean, for God's sake, because I've been teaching technology for years. I teach, basic cybersecurity for your personal security. Until I saw that video, and I had never thought of that as a way for someone to get information. Never even occurred to me. Like, I know that you're not supposed to use the same the same login information, the same passwords for several things, for several different accounts. You should use different ones. I understand that. Whether or not I do that is questionable, but but I understand that, and I teach my students that as if I do. So hopefully none of my students are watching. But I teach them the right way. But
this is why you have a password vault, because
right,
and we've all done it, right? We've all used the same password for a number of different things or variations of it. I will tell you that when we go through and we test, I guess we capture on average about 99.9997% of all passwords that we try to crack.
Wow.
Passwords are, it's really an illusion to a certain extent, a lot like doors and locks on doors and windows are. If somebody wants in, they're going to get in.
Right. It's almost like if somebody wants to get you. It's the same thing. That's how I feel. We're up against a commercial break. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but I want you to tell me about like the actual what it looks like from the employee perspective for the actual training. Is it easy? Is it hard? Is it how people might find it? That kind of thing. Would you be willing to do that when we come back? Okay, excellent.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. We're talking to Michael Fitzpatrick. He is a cybersecurity expert extraordinaire with NCX Group Security. And he's talking to us about cybersecurity awareness solutions for your small business. So I'm very excited to talk to him about that. As usual, quite full of information. And we will be back in a minute or two.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday
7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz. Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it. And we're back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and I am with the one and only Mike Fitzpatrick, who's talking to us about cybersecurity solutions for small businesses and cybersecurity awareness. And before the break, I asked you, you have a new training program that you're offering to small businesses. And I was asking you about what the training looks like on the employee side, what the level of difficulty is, that kind of thing.
Well, again, what we're trying to do is create awareness. We're trying to make them aware of potential risks and potential attacks. So what will happen, and we do this a couple of different ways. One could be through the use of a phishing simulator. So, for instance, 92% of all breaches now come via a phishing attack of some kind. That's the first part, the leading wave of the attack, if you will, is usually through an email. Why? Because everything goes through email. They can go through and they can try to pull it out if something's suspicious. But if it's just an email that says, hey Bob, we've just started a new web application. Would you download it, give it a try, and let me know what your thoughts are, and provide a link? Well, there's nothing in that that's suspicious. And if you're not paying attention, you might click the link, and now you've downloaded a rootkit that gives me control of your machine. So it can happen that fast. The only way to really defend a business against that in most cases is by training, is by education. So with the training topics that are out there, I mean, you've got password management, a clean desk policy, physical security, email security, phishing and spear phishing, smart social media use, safe remote working. And we've talked about this before. Never use Wi-Fi at a coffee shop. Never, ever, ever do that. Being secure online banking, information security in general, what that is. Social engineering, like I talked about, being able to talk your way into stuff like public Wi-Fi use.
Now is
scams.
Let me ask you, is it the kind of training where perhaps the company might require, I don't know, all new hires to go through a certain amount of...
Exactly. So
okay.
But the problem is with a new hire, right? You get it one time and you're done. One of the things that we do with this in the Pro solution is we actually go through and curate a list of videos that your employee should see over the course of a year's time with the solution. So there's like one per month. So it's a 3 to 5 minute video on, kind of like what we heard, real world scenario, a real world event that has happened. And we use that as a teaching tool. Then after the video is over with, they're given 4 to 5 questions as far as, trying to ascertain how much they have retained from the video. And so, it's a little test at that point. It's not pass or fail, but it gives the employer an idea of how well they're grasping the subject. If there's additional video and additional training that needs to take place, they're auto-enrolled in that and they're fed that additional material to make sure that they understand the topic.
Oh, wow. They're auto-enrolled. And I like that. Now, the way it works with, we have a similar thing that we have to do as teachers, and we have to do the same training every year. It's similar, but it doesn't change. And it reminds me of that, like how to handle when someone gets sick, how to handle medications with kids, child abuse, that kind of thing. And it's a similar situation. That's kind of where I'm getting the questions from. Only at the end, when we have the questions, we have to get at least a 70 to pass. Like they don't that's the only difference. They don't re-enroll us. You have to get a 70. They make us do it again. And there's like 20, something like that.
So we go through and we re-enroll those that are struggling with it, right? Because that's who you need to have the additional education with. You don't, if somebody's grasping it and understanding it, and they're not tricky questions, they're pretty straightforward. Again, we're not here to inhibit what's going on in the workday. We're here to help provide a level of understanding and support, because if your employees, and this is the part I love, if your employees utilize this education, not only will it make you more defensible in the workplace, but it will make them smarter consumers in their personal lives when it comes to possible cyber attacks.
And certainly will.
I think it's a great benefit for both.
It certainly will, because the thing, and here's the difference between private business and public school, right? Like the information that we get never seems to get updated. I've been taking the same tests for the last, 10 years I've been teaching. I literally don't even, hopefully nobody's watching this, I don't even watch the videos anymore. I just go take the test because I already know it. I take it every year. I already know it. The only time I ever go through and watch the PowerPoint is if I fail the test, which is extremely rare. But there's like 20 of them. It takes hours and hours, and they're not short. Like sometimes they're like 30 minutes, sometimes they're 40, like they're long. They're not.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like in Boy Scouts. You have the youth protection videos. If you're a leader within Boy Scouts, you have to go through and do this youth protection video that they have had for the better part of 10 years now. You go through and you have to recertify every 2 years, but it's the same video.
Exactly.
And it's like 40 questions, and it's just the worst acted videos that I've ever seen. But you got to go through it from a compliance standpoint. At least these are interesting. At least these are things that you've heard of out of the news. There's one that's a takeoff on Sony Pictures and the Sony Pictures breach. There's one that's related to Target. But I mean, there's about 60 or 70 different videos and in different topics and different scenarios. So we can really curate something special for your particular business and what you might want to focus on. So, for example, GDPR, if you're a company that does business in Europe and you need GDPR cyber awareness training for your people, that series of videos, I think, is about 4 or 5 videos. So it's not just one and done, but they're, again, 3 to 5 minute vignettes, if you will, that are designed as kind kind of like my podcast on cybersecurity, bite-sized security. It's meant to be bite-sized because if you're able to digest that small bite and build upon it as you go, you're going to get better at understanding this. And if you're better at understanding it makes it harder for the bad guys to get past you and your employees. The other side of this is, as I said, and this is the part that drives me absolutely crazy, and that is there's a lot of CEOs that I have spoken with regarding cybersecurity. It is astounding to me how little emphasis they put on that in protecting themselves, their business, their employees, the growth, the future growth of their companies. It is the thing that will wipe you out, and the data is clear on this. One of the things that executives don't understand about cybersecurity, and I think they believe that we are making the numbers up as professionals, but there are laws on the books that require notification of a cybersecurity breach in every state.
Oh, absolutely.
In order to do the notification, what do you have to do, Melanie? You have to do a postmortem and make a determination what happened, right?
Yep.
You have to go through and do that and dissect it and understand what the costs were from the impact of fines, fees, downtime, lost production, impact to business and revenues. The data is there. It is absolutely 100% correct. We know that in 2018, 53% of all small and mid-sized businesses were breached. Of that, 66% were out of business in 6 months. We know this to be true.
We do know this to be true. And I think when it comes out of the mouth of somebody who's offering cybersecurity, I guess they're like, that can't be true. They're exaggerating. But seriously, you could Google it. I mean, and the information is there. I've read it several times that the information is there, and it's pretty consistent across the board that 66% of businesses go out of business if there's a cybersecurity breach. And I think the other thing that people don't think of, they think they're a small business and nobody is targeting them. But what they don't think about is for example, the scenario that was in the video, which is, maybe they weren't targeting you in the beginning, but they stumbled upon your information and thought, let's go in and get it.
Well, and again, why? Because you're not protected typically. We know, that you don't have IT services up on everything, as far as security services, I should say. It's the path of least resistance. I mean, this is not rocket science.
No.
The bad guys are intelligent people. They're not kids in a basement eating pizza and hacking you for fun. It's organized crime. It's state-sponsored actors. There's teams that go through. I mean, we heard of this week alone. We were talking about this early in the show or before the show. This week alone, from Friday, Memorial Day weekend to today, there have been 900 million profiles exposed through 3 breaches. First American Title, your title to your home is in jeopardy. There's a great service out there called Title Lock. Sign up for it because somebody could sell your home out from under you with the information taken for First American. Number 2.
Wow.
Go ahead.
No, I was just about to say that you don't even hear about breaches in the news anymore unless it's a really huge one. Like I haven't heard of any of these breaches that you're talking about.
Well, okay, so Equifax, right? A year ago, 2 years ago, Moody's just downgraded that company as a result of that breach. That was only $455 million. First American Title is double that. Now you also throw in Quest Labs or LabCorp. So if you've had medical lab work done,
I heard about that one.
Those have also been exposed. So some of the richest data in the world to mine is medical records and
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Your title to your home.
because it's got wire transfer information, it's got social security numbers, it's got, think about everything that goes into a mortgage that's in your title. So you have to realize that this data is incredibly valuable to bad guys. And you have to do something to protect it.
That's absolutely nuts. And I've been hearing about the title, about people taking the titles and selling your house right out from under you. And that sounds completely insane. And how can you even fix that? By the time it gets to that point, I mean, come on.
Yeah. That's where they go out and get a loan. They run up the equity and leave you, run up the financing on the home and leave you to deal with the consequence of it.
Oh my goodness.
So,
well, tell the small businesses, we have 3 minutes left. Tell people how they can get in touch with you, how they can avail themselves of the services, get pricing, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So the best way to get in touch with us is through the website, ncxgroup.com. And that's N is in Nancy, C is in Charlie, X is in X-ray, group.com. Social platforms are NCX Group, whether that's on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We don't do much on Instagram, but there's still some stuff out there. And then if you want to try the training, I've posted the link here in the Facey chat. Sign up for it, try it, play with it. I really think that I'm excited about it because Melanie, you know my story. I started this business 18 years ago with $3,000 to my name, a stay-at-home wife, an 18-month-old son. And like every other business owner, you have sleepless nights. There's things that keep you up. There's things that keep you awake. And when you look at what could absolutely cripple a small business from a cyber attack standpoint, there are things that you can do to prevent it, and you need to take those steps. That's why this offering is so important to me. It personally, I think it is something that every business can do. It is cost effective. It yields great results. It at least allows you to have an understanding of where you are. It lets you practice types of attacks and defending them off. I think it's a great first step for a lot of businesses that haven't done anything yet.
I agree. I agree with you completely. Protect yourselves, avail yourself of this service. It's a great idea. And thank you once again, Mr. Mike Fitzpatrick, for being on the show.
Hey, anytime. And I have to say, I'm impressed with Denzel there. He chirped once or twice, but that's about it.
See, I told you he's good for his mama.
We'll see how he does next month. He's still new at the house.
That's true. He is. He's new to now. If anybody had come in here, it would have been a different story. I had the windows open before the show started, and he was hearing all kinds of birds, and he was barking his face off. And I was like, what is going on? Yeah, so I shut the windows. And he seemed to pull it together. I was like, why? What is wrong with you? He loves birds and rabbits, and I don't mean to play with. I think he wants to eat one. It's not a good situation.
Give it a good shot at it anyway. I know that my lab will actually go chasing in the yard, and it gets pretty close.
Yeah, so does Denzel. He got off his leash twice because they now have these breakaway collars now. So I had to get like a real collar that he couldn't get out of because he broke away twice chasing rabbits. So we can't have that. He's too little to be chasing stuff. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I will talk to you next month. I'm sure I'll talk to you sooner.
You got it. Thanks, Melanie.
All right, thanks. You are listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. That was the one and only Michael Fitzpatrick. Check out his cybersecurity awareness training for your small business. It's a great idea. I'm telling you for sure. Next hour, we have Jacklyn Shapiro. We're talking about the credit that you deserve. Very excited to talk to her. She's a speaker and author, and she is going to be speaking to us remotely from the road. But right now, we're going to go to a commercial break. We'll be back in a few moments.
latest show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's no surrender ever, because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Right now, you can get the credit you deserve. Just visit MrCreditRepair.biz. Let their expert credit repair specialist remove late payments, charge-offs, collections, even old bankruptcies fast and easy. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Why go anyplace else? Increase your credit score today. At Mr. Credit, you always get a quality service, all at our everyday discounted price. Stop getting turned down for cars, credit cards, or even new homes. Visit MrCreditRepair.biz today. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Your credit repair is our #1 priority.
Making a living can be tough these days with so many jobs going overseas. If you love numbers and puzzles and want job security, you can become a tax specialist with an amazing 6-month tax course from Tax Mama. Operate your own tax practice locally or anywhere in the world where there are American taxpayers. It's a great way to write off your trips to visit family for months at a time. Everything you need to pass the IRS 3 special enrollment examinations is included in this course. Visit irsexams.school. And if you need more than 6 months, that's okay. Take your time. You're in the course until you pass the exams or until you unsubscribe and reject Tax Mama's emails.
And we're back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. Our guest for the second hour is Ms. Jacklyn Shapiro. She's the co-founder and managing partner at Shapiro, Hurst, and Associates, LLC. And she's going to talk to us about extraordinary solutions for the credit status you deserve. I'm excited to talk to her this evening. A little bit about Jacklyn. She she's been working with credit for more than 25 years in the automotive industry. And since that time, she's dedicated thousands of hours to research and helping consumers across the country achieve the credit status that they deserve. She had the esteemed honor to have been mentored on the intricacies of credit, the credit bureaus, and the state of federal laws governing credit from the foremost experts in the industry. In addition, she's been a guest on radio shows such as The Automotive Edge with Kurt Chase, Real Talk with Willie Lambright, and Chasing the Truth on ESPN. And she's also been featured on Mike Crichton's National Credit Webinar Seasons, recognized by Strathmore's Who's Who worldwide as a woman of excellence, and The Good Life TV with Beverly Fell Jones. And we are very excited to have her on the show. She's also a published author and impassioned speaker with the determination to empower everyone around her with knowledge. So we're very excited to have her on the show to talk to us about getting the credit we deserve this evening. And without further ado, Ms. Jacklyn Shapiro, how are you?
Hello, Melanie. How are you this evening?
I am fantastic. I'm excited to talk to you about this topic. I think that probably, unless everyone has been perfect, people all over the country, probably all over the world, have at some point or another had trouble with their credit, unless even the Dave Ramseys of the world have had some issues with their credit. So,
yeah, definitely. Most definitely.
And before we move forward with any questions, I wanted to know, is there anything that I left out of your bio that you wanted to let the audience know?
No, it's way too long as it is. But thank you for that.
Well, that's the thing. Once you get to the point where you're appearing on people's shows and podcasts, that's your resume is super long by then. And then it's hard to cut it. Then they don't know. It's hard to cut it short. That's because you've accomplished some things. That's a good thing.
It's so true what you said. Everybody experiences a credit issue. And what I found is, Melanie, it doesn't matter if you're an NFL player or if you're the teacher down the street, because some of our clients fall into both realms. Everyone will experience a credit issue. It's only a matter of when it happens and to what degree. So knowing some of the, what I call rules of the road, and understanding that credit is a broken system that we are all working inside of is an exceptional benefit and help to most people, because they've never been taught how credit actually works, how the system actually operates. And so we really go out of our way to make sure that we help educate them on that and really guide them, empower them with that knowledge.
Now, that's interesting that you say that. So what do you mean when you say that the system is broken, that the credit system is broken?
Well, okay, so if we go historically, let's go back in time a little bit. If we even go back into, let's say, the Great Depression era, we go into the 1930s, the credit system then versus the 1950s versus the 1970s versus 2000, the credit system evolves as we move forward in time. And when that happens, it makes it impossible for our grandparents to have taught our parents, for our parents to have taught us how the credit system works today. So if you look more nationally, you've only got 5 states in the union that actually have any requirement when it comes to financial, I would call financial intelligence or financial education for our kids. So when we talk about a broken system, most people think, well, if I just pay my bills on time, I should have exceptional credit. And while that is, that hit home with you, didn't it?
Yep. It certainly did. I teach financial literacy in the interest of full disclosure. I teach it on the high school level. And I also am like a finance specialist as far as insurance and income protection and that kind of thing.
Exactly. So just as much as anyone, that our kids are lacking, they're lacking that support at home because no one's taught their parents and their grandparents couldn't teach their parents. So the kids are coming into a world where they don't really understand how credit works. They may or may not know how to balance a checkbook. And so even the most basic things that you or I would see as financial literacy, it's really not being given to the kids on the scale that they need it. They're not being taught to pay themselves first. They're not being taught what passive income is. They're not being taught that, just for an example, when we talk about direct financial literacy, Peter Maluk, who you probably know, is Tony Robbins' partner in their financial firm. They sat down and Peter came up with some numbers that are absolutely arithmetically correct. $300 a month from the time you're 19 only until the time you're 27. That's all you save is $300 a month. Now you put that into a compounding interest account at 10%, and you only save for those 7 years, but at 65, that account's worth $1.8 million. Now, you take that same example and you take what bad credit actually cost you, and it almost triples those numbers just for the difference between the cost of good credit and bad.
Oh,
that's the power of what we're giving them. Yeah.
That is very true. With my students, with my high school students, I do an exercise with them where I compare two people who start saving and investing at 21 and compared to when they start saving at age 31. And it's a $500,000 difference, you know, in the scenario that I use, but literally they double it. It can double. It can cost you half of what you normally would if the later you start saving, just by 10 years.
Exactly. And when we talk about, you know, it's a broken system, and you work with insurance, so I know that you see the cost factor difference between, let's just say, homeowners and auto insurance. If your credit isn't in good shape versus your credit being in great shape, those prices can differ dramatically. So when we really talk about a broken system, we have things in the credit report and in the scoring algorithms, and not to confuse anybody that's listening, but if we take just the FICO credit score today, there are over 60 versions of FICO today. And in the versions that are most commonly used for, let's say, mortgage accounts, that version of FICO carries the exact same weight for a $500 medical bill as it does a $500 repossession. Now, once they transfer to FICO 09, it won't have that same weight, and I think that'll be a great thing for the consumer. But today, the way that things are calculated and weighed, it really is a broken system, Melanie.
I had no idea that was the way they did that. I really assumed, and of course, everything that I say after that word is going to be ridiculous, but I didn't know anything about the details of how your FICO score was calculated. So in other words, I did not necessarily know that different bills were weighted differently. I did know about, obviously, you know, having too many lines of credit open, having too much credit, having too many inquiries, bankruptcy, you know, all those like basic things that people know influence your credit score. But I did not know that different bills were weighed differently depending on what you were applying for. That I did not know.
Well, why don't we go into that a little bit, if you would like, for your listeners on how that's actually put together and and let's demystify some of it.
I'd love to.
All right, so let's just talk about, and first and foremost, I would tell anybody that's listening, if you go and pull your own credit reports online, there are 100 places you can do it, and the vast majority of those, unless you go to myfico.com, where you're going to pay more for it, but even if you do that, that score isn't going to match, let's say, a mortgage lender or an auto dealership or a credit card company that's looking at you. So anything you pull yourself online, realize that most of that is going to be based off of a Vantage credit score, and it's going to be different. Generally speaking, Vantage will show you a higher credit score than FICO, and it can be as much as a 40 to 60 point difference. Now, when we really talk about FICO, and that's where the bulk of the information of what people really need to understand is that all they're really doing, that 3-digit credit score or that 3-digit number, it's not just a number. It's actually a 2-year projection of your ability to pay your bills. That's what it physically represents.
Whoa.
So
I didn't know that either. Keep going. Sorry. I didn't know that either.
I'm glad, but if you're having aha moments, that means your listeners are having aha moments too, so that's a great thing. So when FICO takes the credit report, really what they're doing is they're taking everything in the credit report, breaking it down into percentages, and giving it a certain value. So 35% of the credit score, which is the largest percent, is going to be based on payment history. And it's obviously an area where the on-time, every-time payments can be an exceptional benefit. but it's also an area where if you have really good credit, just one late payment could easily cost you 50 to 80 points overnight.
Whoa, 50 to 80 points. Sorry, that's yes. My Denzel, my new dog, agrees that is pretty terrible. Right?
Hi, Denzel.
Yeah, apparently he thinks that's awful too. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say that when you have good credit, just one brand new collection could easily cost you 80 to 100 points, and that's overnight. So the higher the score, the more points it will take away. 30% is going to be based on the amount of money that the report shows you owe. So if you think about that 30% like a credit card, and you've got a credit card with $1,000 limit, but you have a $900 balance, then this is going to be a bad thing. So when you're managing your credit report as a whole, and so don't just look at your score, but manage the credit report as a whole. And when you do that, you want the total amount of available credit that you have versus the total amount of debt that you have. The further the distance between those two numbers, the more points are going to go into the score.
See, I didn't understand that either. And I think people would be, if they understood these details behind how your score is calculated, they would be a lot more judicious about how they use their credit.
They would be. And it's simply, at the end of the day, it's simply a matter of the information. I'll put it this way. The Federal Trade Commission put together a study, and they said, hey, if you were actually going to go in and, let's say, repair your own credit, they would estimate that it would take you 1,000 hours to be able to learn it and do it yourself. And so what we're doing in our conversation today is we're taking a decade worth of knowledge and shoving it into a very short time frame so that everybody can really get the basics down in a very quick period of time too.
I like that. I like that a lot. So is that what your company basically does, or?
Well, I have 3 companies total, and everything I do, Melanie, revolves around credit. So my expertise is as a consumer advocate in the area of credit and finance. So what does that really mean? It means that if somebody has an immediate issue and they need it fixed, they need somebody that can reach out to the president's office at Bank of America or talk to a collection company on their behalf and know how to navigate the compliance policies to create a win-win scenario for everyone, I'm definitely that person. If somebody's had a life event, and let's just face it, everybody has a life event, it does happen. And when that happens, credit repair can be a good option, and we offer those services at a high level. We do everything is highly customized, but we do that as well. And then we also do optimization tools and programs where somebody comes to us and they say, I need 20 points in my credit report. My loan officer can't find it. I don't know how to do it. Can you dissect my credit report and tell me how to optimize a score to its fullest potential? Then yes, we can do those kinds of things too.
Oh, wow. It didn't even occur to me that people did stuff like that. So let me ask you, I want to ask you about something that I'm not sure that anybody, actually, I have a question in the Facebook chat. Someone said total debt to credit ratio versus account by account. Is there any difference?
Great question.
That is a great question.
Yes, there is. And let's do this specifically. Now, anybody that's listening, please do not try to use these percentages for anything other than your credit card. These are highly specific numbers to credit card accounts. All right, so to answer the question on utilization rate for overall versus specific, when we're talking about credit card accounts, because that's generally where that question applies, if we look at the top 1% of all credit scores across the country, those credit card balances are ranging at 7%. So if you are trying to optimize your scores to the highest possible point, your credit cards, number one, are the fastest way to positively or negatively influence your credit score. And if you're trying to optimize to the highest credit score possible, then bring your credit card balances below 10% of your limit. That's the most optimal area for them to be. If your credit card balance is at 30% or less, that's a healthy level. But the day that your credit card balance hits 50% of your limit, you will automatically start to suppress and depress your credit scores, and they will remain lowered until you pay that card off. If you exceed your credit limit, you will actually take what I call the triple hit, which is an additional drop in your credit score. You're going to open the door for the credit card company to raise your interest rates. And what you may not know in the background is that other credit card companies looking to extend you credit can view that over limit balance, or the balance going over the limit in the past is a negative against you. So yes, individually, specifically to credit cards, that utilization rate absolutely can affect you independently of your total utilization rate across the credit report.
Oh, wow. That was a great question. That was from Money Talk with Melanie fan, Eric Jessup. The question that I was going to ask you is about student loans and how they affect your credit score. I'm not sure that anybody ever really talks about that in any specific way. And, you know, the student loan companies make it seem like it doesn't affect your credit at all, and that cannot possibly be the case.
It's not. It's not the case. And here again, we can have a positive or negative effect depending on what is transpiring. So let's say, for example, you had 2 credit cards, you're young, you're about to go to college, you have no installment accounts, and to define those for all the listeners, an installment account would be something like a student loan or a car note or a bank loan. Basic definition, you've got a certain amount of money over a certain number of months at a certain payment. Right, so if you were young, you had a couple of credit cards, but no installment account, and you go and you get a student loan. In this specific scenario, the moment that installment were to report, because you have no open active installment, you would automatically get a jump in your credit score. Now, if you have multiple installments, and there is a threshold, what we call a threshold number, which is the number of accounts you should have in any given category before it starts to detract or pull away from your credit scores. So if you have 3 installments that are open and active, and you open a 4th, you start pulling away from your credit score, dropping it as you go. And then again, we go back to 30% of the credit score being about the amount of debt. So the more debt that you rack up, the more it will affect the credit score, and not necessarily in a positive way.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. Now, there's a proposal out there in Congress. Well, it's probably not in Congress. It was just something that somebody in Congress kind of put out there, that there should be a limit on interest rates for credit card companies. And I was wondering, with somebody like you, just a matter of opinion, with somebody like you thought about that, whether that was better for consumers or not, just from an objective perspective. Is it because the goal was to make it better for consumers because of predatory lending and things like that? So, for example, you wouldn't be able, I think they wanted to cap it at 15%. So companies wouldn't be able to charge 15%. Now, of course, there's 2 schools of thought. One school of thought is that poor people would not be able to get any credit at all and repair their credit, because banks are not going to take that high of a risk if they can't charge high interest rates. So it actually would hurt people. But there's another school of thought that said it would help people by not costing them so much money. And I was wondering where somebody like you might stand on something like that.
Well, I would say, keep in perspective that even Henry VIII put a cap on interest at 10%. So, yes, I'm in agreement that, because it's never, and here's I'm going to do this in a 2-part answer, Melanie. yes, I think number one, it would be exceptionally more helpful for the consumer to have the lowest interest rate possible, because it's never the balance on the credit card that kills you. It's the interest that you're paying on it.
True.
And that's part of the reason that we have this debt load. Right now, the debt load in America is higher than it was in 2007, 2008, when everything absolutely crashed. We have more debt now than we did then. And credit cards are a big factor in that. So if we could bring, because some of those credit cards, and I know you've seen them too, where they're at 29%. Can you imagine paying 29% on your card? What that would look like?
That's incredibly high.
It is. And so if that interest rate comes down, I think it contributes back to the financial health of the country. And also keep in mind that these credit card companies, Melanie, credit card companies today, they have insurance policies on their accounts. So when someone doesn't pay, they do have insurance. They do get to take a large percentage of a defaulted account, write it off the top of their taxes as a bad debt or charge off profit and loss. And then they get paid when they sell it off to a collector as well. So credit card companies, this is the reason that they are making billions of dollars. And Bank of America alone, they process about 60 million payments a day. So do I feel bad for the credit card companies? This is personal opinion. But no, I really don't.
No, listen,
really don't.
That's what I asked for, is your personal opinion. And of course, based on your professional expertise, that's what I wanted to know, how you felt about that.
Well, you asked a question and you asked me a question. I'll tell you exactly how I think.
Oh, no, that's exactly what I wanted to know. So if someone, it's funny because I said, Doug in the Facebook chat was responding to what I said about somebody building credit, and Doug said if someone just declared bankruptcy, which would be true, but I was thinking that would be the only circumstance in which somebody's interest rates were that high is probably if they're coming out of a bankruptcy or if they already had some kind of bad credit or something like that.
Well, and keep in mind too that if you're out there and you had that life event or the bankruptcy, or you had some major thing happen where now you're trying to rebuild credit, you can start small. And you can start with even a secured credit card if you need to. And even that would have lower interest rates than some of the major brand accounts that have higher interest rates. And if you are rebuilding, it doesn't matter if it has a $200 limit on it, as long as you're doing something that is moving the credit back to a healthy state.
That's very true. Doug in the Facebook chat said 14.99 APR compounded by second. I mean, it's true. It compounds so fast. And one of the exercises that I do with my students is that as well, to show the difference between, compound interest and simple interest and how it really adds up. Now, I do that it's very difficult to get them to understand the difference between the interest. I don't know why. The difference between the interest rates on a credit card and the interest rate that you get saving, that is essentially the same thing, but it has to do what you do. It has to do with what you're doing with your money, whether or not you're creating debt or whether or not you're putting it away so that you are gaining interest. And hopefully you're getting compounded interest. But it's hard for them to understand that they're both sides of the same coin.
It is, and when we talk to kids about the same thing, I use the $300 example because usually if they can break it down into a small number that they can see a massive difference from, and then we also incorporate things like, I don't know, it just depends on the age of the child, too. High school is much different than, let's say, a 12-year-old.
True. Now, I do high school, and we have a scenario where the kid's name is Justin, and he gets a credit card for the first time, and he's buying stuff a little bit at a time, But over the course of about 6 months, you see his payment like double and triple because of the interest, and they have to actually do the math, and they can see how quickly that payment goes up and what little you have to buy. I mean, he starts off by, spending like maybe $200 in 1 month, and something happens and he can only pay the minimum payment, and that's when you start to go downhill. As soon as you can only pay the minimum payment, it's a quick roll downhill to a very high payment and in a near impossible situation.
Right. And then, even if, and we do this too, we will take like a credit card statement that will show where the credit card company is telling you, if you only make the minimum payment, you'll be out of debt in 16 years.
Right. And they just started requiring credit card companies to tell you that, I don't know, a few years ago, but I cracked up when I saw it. I was like, oh, good Lord. I think there's a part that kind of does the opposite when people see that. They're like, oh, well, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to have this payment forever. So I think there's just a part of me that thinks that it had the opposite effect than what it was supposed to have. It was supposed to get people to say, let me go ahead and pay this off, but I don't think that that's how it's necessarily working.
Well, I think that there are a couple of reasons that we're seeing that, Melanie. I think that people are in such debt loads right now that, we're talking about a large percentage have such high debt loads that they don't see a way out. And the only thing that they can see is, I'm going to make my minimum payment. I'm going to keep a roof over our heads, keep some food on the table, and keep digging in the trenches until we can get into a better position. The only problem is if they're not paying themselves first to begin with, the conversation remains of, I'll do this when I have enough. I'll do this when I've saved enough. I'll do this when I have something left over. And if you're not paying yourself first, then the win never gets here.
Exactly. Now, I had a question for my students. One time I said, what do you think paying yourself first means? Right? And this was before I taught them what paying yourself first means, and the answers were very interesting and entertaining from my perspective. But for the sake of the audience who has never heard this terminology before, I was surprised that the students had never heard that term before in regard to saving money. That they had never, most of them had never heard the term paying yourself first. They thought it meant buy what you want and then save. Like, I got answers like that. And I was like, okay, what have I been talking to you all about? And that's really what you think it means. It means buy for yourself, buy what you want first and then save. It's like, no, the opposite. It means to put money, that the first thing you do is put money away. You pay yourself first. And then somebody in the Facebook chat said, thanks for asking that, because you hear that term, but a lot of people don't know exactly what it means. But what it means is to put people tend to save the opposite way. People tend to pay their bills, and then out of whatever they have left over, they decide, I'm going to put a little bit of this away. When it's supposed to work the other way. When you're supposed to decide what you're going to save and then build your budget, around that. But people tend not to do it that way.
And Melanie, I think the truth here is that we're simply not taught the mindset to think of our money in these terms. And so when it's not taught to you from childhood, then this becomes a foreign language. And I think that's what you and I are so passionate about, is really teaching the difference. And if we could take, and here's something that's mind-blowing too, because this is my legacy work that I'm just going to jump on for 2 seconds, but taking the next generation. Now, what would life have been like for you or for me or for 100 people that are listening if somebody would have told you when you were a teenager, if you just saved $300 a month at 65, you have $1.8 million and you're not dependent on Social Security.
Exactly. It's crazy. And I try to tell my kids that. I'm like, if I had this information when I was hustling, working at McDonald's for $3.50 an hour, they don't believe that I made that little money. That was minimum wage was like $3.25, and I was special and made $3.50 an hour because I was a good worker. If someone had told me that back then, I could easily have been a millionaire by now, as hard as I worked.
Exactly. But again, it's not, the mindset hasn't been taught. So my true passion here and what my legacy, what I would like that to look like, is for us to take the next generation, empower them with this knowledge, and then be able to remove the financial stress part of the equation out of the equation. Because that's the part where the financial stress causes depression, it causes health problems, it causes marriages to dissolve, it causes all kinds of after effects that there's nothing positive about it. And that's not to say that other problems don't happen in life. Neither one of us are naive enough to believe that. But if you can remove financial stress from the equation and get everybody started on a healthy track, then you change the country. You really do.
You're so right about that. Eric in the Facebook chat said it's hard to do when the rent man comes through, which you know he was chuckling about that, which can be true. So how can we proactively attack our situation so that it doesn't feel stressful? Our finances can be so stressful, especially if you're a spender and not necessarily a saver. That whole pay yourself first scenario has been a godsend to me, because I like to spend, so I have it automatically taken out of my account so that on payday, so that it's just gone, so that I don't have to think about it. But it's still difficult, especially when you go to check it every now and then. You're like, oh wow, I have how much? But the point is for it to stay there. That's the point.
Right. And you know, just from personal experience, as a single mom, when I first became a single mom, I mean, it was a hustle, girl. It was a hustle to be able to make the rent, keep food on the table. I mean, I started out with absolutely nothing. I mean, I had enough money to get a small apartment, no furniture. You know, it was tough. And so I personally, from a personal aspect, I get that, where you're struggling just to, okay, how am I paying rent? How am I buying food? All of those things. I really, really get it. But if we change the conversation around money, instead of it being just a hustle, and start striving for the outcome of, okay, instead of trading time for money, so time and effort to get a paycheck, we start trading the time and effort to be able to save a little bit, to start investing. I keep it simple with the kids and just call it the 3 pillars of wealth, which for them is business, stock market, and real estate. So if we can even start to bring in our money to start building in those 3 pillars of wealth and start creating passive income, because the passive income is where the dynamic really, really changes. When you start having that passive income start to accumulate and build for that long-term wealth, where it's not just $100 after you get your paycheck that you're saving, but then the $100 becomes an investment, the investment becomes a passive income, and then you've got a positive wheel of change in people's lives.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Doug says strategies matter, and they do. And the kind of employment that you seek matters too. I mean, you get to a certain age and you realize, like, is this all that I want to do? And I think that's the birth nowadays, because of technology. I think entrepreneurship is a little bit easier, is not the word I necessarily want to use, but there's a lot more opportunities for entrepreneurship with the advent of technology. I think it makes it if you're able to use it, it makes it easier to create passive incomes and multiple streams of incomes where you're not necessarily, working for every dollar, working for a strategy and confined to just the salary that you make.
Oh, absolutely. And there's so much opportunity out there, and it's really a matter of just thinking. And in my opinion, it's really about thinking it through. And if you really can start to visualize and use your brain to go, okay, well, this is what I'm passionate about. How do I create an income from that? And then once you start creating an income from that, you go, okay, well, what goes with this? What fits with this? What corresponds with this where I could pick up an additional revenue stream? And then you start combining those things. And like you were saying, you start using technology to your benefit. You can accumulate multiple streams of income very quickly with a whole lot less effort than back in the day when we were both working for very minimum wage.
Exactly. One thing that I have found useful, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, is helping people just because. One of a couple of the things that created other streams of income for me was because people asked me if I could help them with something, and I did. And eventually they were like, I should probably be paying you for this. Or someone that I'm having dinner with later, a friend of mine who I consider a mentor and a businesswoman in her own right. I should really have her on the show. Her name is Sue Adelizi. She said to me, I was doing some volunteer work for someone, and she said to me, they should be paying you. She's like, that's nice that you're volunteering and all, but they should be paying you. And it opened up a consulting business that she started that consulting business basically because I was doing it. And I mean, to the tune of a significant amount of money. Let's just put it that way. So,
right.
Yeah. And she was like, why are you doing that for free? They don't appreciate you. And they should be paying you. That is literally how it went down. And so the next time they asked me to perform that particular service, I sent them a contract and they paid it and didn't even blink. So it was crazy. So a lot of times you can create businesses by accident.
You can, and then you find you're good at something. And I think that's one of the reasons that it doesn't matter how successful you are or if you're just starting, no matter where you're at on your journey. So I always look at this as no one's better than anybody else. It's just, where are you on your journey? Are you starting? Are you in the middle? Where are you? And no matter where you're at, a mentor can be all the difference in the world to have that different perspective on what you're doing. I find too, as far as guidance and I break down my life, I break it down into personal, professional, and legacy. So I focus on each of them individually, but I've also found that one of the things that has helped me tremendously is being part of a true mastermind. And I know that we've both been around long enough that mastermind gets thrown around. But a true mastermind where it's organized, efficient, planned, and consistent, that has made an incredible difference for me personally. So I agree. I mean, having mentors and people that you can trust and help guide you makes all the difference in the world, especially if you're looking to start your own business.
And it's amazing that sometimes you're not looking to start your own business and it starts for you. I was helping another friend with technology and just kept helping him. He would ask me to do stuff and he was like, I should be paying you for this. How about being my technology consultant and I'll pay you a certain amount of money a month to do that? I was like, all right. With my podcast, I was on the air for about, I don't know, 6 months, a year. And I just really enjoyed doing it. And someone asked me, do you take sponsors? And I was like, yeah.
Yes, I do.
Why, yes, I do. Let me look into the pricing for that. And by that, I mean, go do some research and figure out how much I should be
Charging you for this.
So a lot of these things really literally happen by accident, by doing stuff that you enjoy. And as corny as it sounds, I think helping other people is a big get.
Oh, it's absolutely, and it's one of the secrets of the wealthy is that they always are contributing. So, yes, absolutely. It's a major part of financial success too.
And it is, and a lot of people, as much as I think rich people get thrown under the bus or not for not being generous, but I've worked with and for a couple of bazillionaires. Back in the day, I used to be an executive assistant, and they're some of the most generous people around. But a lot of times what they do is they donate anonymously because everybody will be banging down your door if you put your name on your big donation. So consequently, they don't get credit for donating the money because nobody knows that they did it. But that's not why you donate money in the first place, right? So,
right. It's not.
But I found that to be consistent among the wealthy, that a lot of them tend to donate anonymously to protect themselves from wasting what is valuable time. When you're a busy person that owns a business, you can't, meet with everyone who has their hand out for money. So, that's kind of like a strategy that I have found a lot of wealthy people use when they want to donate to causes that are important to them.
Absolutely, it is. And, for your listeners too, if while we're talking about mentors and financial wealth, and, you would be really surprised, even the people that are famous, public figures, very well to do in the business world, don't be afraid to approach those people and ask them to mentor you. Yeah, there are going to be some of them that may say, no, I'm sorry, I don't have time. But a very dear friend of mine, Nancy Lieberman, became her mentor simply because she asked. So I would also encourage anybody that's listening, if you are thinking about going this type of path that Melanie and I are talking about, don't be afraid to ask. And generally when we ask for help, and sometimes I think that, as business owners or professionals, we feel hesitant to ask for help because we think we should know already, when truthfully, when we do ask for help, some of the most amazing things can come from it when we do.
That is very true. That is very true. I love that. So listen, how can people get in touch with you if they want to avail themselves of your services?
You can reach me. I'm going to give you phone number, email, and website.
Okay.
So if you want to find us on the web, just go to Shapiro-Hurst.com. SHAPIRO-HURST.com. Or you can text me not text me, but email me at Jackie@Shapiro-Hurst.com. And our main phone number is 972-996-6688. And if you want to call me personally, feel free to do it. My direct line at our office is 469-619-0717.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I really do appreciate it.
It was my pleasure, Melanie. We'll have to do this again when we can dive more into specifics on credit and answer some more questions for your listeners.
Oh, I would love to do that. Maybe I'll collect some questions ahead of time and get you to answer them when you come on the air.
Fantastic. That sounds like a plan.
Thank you so very much. You have a great weekend.
You too. Bye, Melanie.
Bye-bye. Hey, listen, I want to thank everybody for listening tonight to Mike Fitzpatrick in the first hour and to Jacklyn Shapiro in the second hour. They did such a fantastic job. Doug in the Facey chat, Eric also listening, Keith Little, Ron Edwards for his Ron Edwards notebook. I want to also thank my sponsors for sure. Biz Social Personal Touch, John Campbell, thank you so very much. Eva Rosenberg, the Tax Mama, thank you. And Robert Houston from MrCreditRepair.biz. Thank you so very much for supporting Money Talk with Melanie. I want you all to remember that this is very important because after all, it's your money. Have a fantastic weekend. Thank you, Alice in the Facey chat. Have a fantastic weekend. Bye-bye.